Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in a time when the world is hungry. Hungry not just for leaders, but for leaders with integrity. We've had charisma, we've seen power. But what we need now, what our homes need, what our schools need, what our churches and nations need is character, rooted in truth. True leadership doesn't begin in the boardroom, it begins in the heart. It is not built on position, it is built on conviction. And if your conscience is compromised, your leadership is already lost. There is a verse that says, "The integrity of the upright shall guide them." Not the cleverness, not the popularity, not the applause of men, but integrity, doing what is right when no one is watching. You see, a leader without integrity is like a compass without a needle. People may follow, but they'll be lost. You may impress them for a while, but you will not inspire them. And leadership without inspiration is just control. I believe that integrity begins with the fear of God. Not the kind of fear that runs away, but the kind that bows low, that honors truth, that walks humbly. And let me tell you something, if you can't lead yourself in private, you can't lead others in public. We need leaders who will stand when others sit, leaders who will speak when others are silent, leaders who will say, "As for me and my house, we will serve what is right no matter what the cost." Integrity will cost you, but it will never fail you, because when the storms come, and they will come, titles will fade, money will vanish, applause will die out, but integrity will stand. Let me close with this. The greatest legacy you can leave is not found in your achievements, but in your example. And that example must be shaped not by the pressure of the crowd, but by the standard of truth. In our world today, we have become infatuated with charm. We are drawn to smooth talkers, polished personalities, and people who know how to command a stage. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, charisma may captivate a crowd for a moment, but only character will sustain trust for a lifetime. You can attract people with your gifts, but you can only keep them with your integrity. A talented man without character is like a ship with no anchor, drifting, dangerous, and destined to sink. The danger with charisma is that it often masks what's missing underneath. We've seen leaders rise high on the wings of popularity and fall harder than anyone expected because their foundation was shallow. Their character couldn't carry the weight of their influence. And when the pressure came, when temptation knocked, when no one was looking, they collapsed. Why? Because they built their leadership on image, not on substance. Character, on the other hand, is forged in silence. It is tested in solitude. It is not shaped in the spotlight, but in the shadows, when the cameras are off, when no one is applauding. A person of character makes the right choice, even when it's the hard choice. They don't change colors to match the crowd. They are the same in the light as they are in the dark. And that, friends, is what makes leadership trustworthy. You see, leadership is not about how many followers you have, it's about how faithfully you lead them. People will follow a charismatic leader for what they say, but they will follow a leader of character for who they are. The most powerful influence doesn't come from persuasion, it comes from example. And example flows from the well of character. If you strip away the praise, the position, and the popularity, what's left is the real measure of a leader. And that measure is not charisma, it is character. Integrity is doing what is right when no one is watching. It is easy to act honorable when the eyes of the world are upon you. It is easy to speak truth when the crowd applauds you for it. But real integrity, godly integrity, shows itself when there is no reward, no recognition, and no one there to pat you on the back. It is in those private places, in those quiet moments, when decisions are made that determine the direction of a life, a family, a ministry, or a nation. You see, ladies and gentlemen, integrity begins where performance ends. When the lights are off and the applause fades, who are you then? What choices do you make when the cameras are not rolling, when no one will ever know? That is where the fire of integrity burns or fails. It is easy to fool people, but you can't fool God, and you can't fool yourself for long. The person you are when you're alone is the real you. Some people wear their morality like a uniform. Put it on when it's convenient, take it off when it's uncomfortable. But integrity doesn't change with the setting. It doesn't bend to the pressure of the moment. It is not concerned with what is popular, but with what is right. A person of integrity will stand alone if they must. They will walk away from gain if it costs them their soul. and they will choose the narrow path when the wide road is lined with cheers. The test of integrity is not in public victory, but in private obedience. A man may build an empire, but if it's built on lies and compromise, it will not last. The truth has a way of rising slowly, surely, eventually. Integrity is the quiet strength that says, I will not cheat, I will not lie, I will not pretend, even if no one ever knows. Because in the end, the greatest victories are not won before crowds, but in secret battles. They are won when you choose the truth over convenience, conviction over comfort, and righteousness over reward. That, my friends, is the hidden power of integrity. Without integrity, leadership is empty and directionless. A leader may have the strength of a lion, the strategy of a general, and the speech of a king, but if he lacks integrity, he has no compass. He may lead, yes, but where is he leading? Without integrity, leadership becomes nothing more than manipulation cloaked in influence. It might look impressive on the outside, but it's hollow on the inside. And eventually, the hollowness echoes, you see, ladies and gentlemen, when integrity is absent, motives become corrupted. The goal is no longer to serve, it is to control. It's no longer to build people up, it's to build an image. And when people begin to follow an image instead of a man of truth, they are not following a leader, they are following a shadow. That kind of leadership may move fast, but it doesn't move forward. It circles in selfishness, spins in confusion, and crashes under the weight of its own deception. Integrity is what gives leadership moral clarity. It tells a leader when to say no, even when yes is easier. It draws the lines that power cannot cross. Without that moral foundation, a leader will be swayed by public opinion, driven by ambition, and shaped by fear instead of conviction. He will become a puppet of the moment, not a pillar for his people. A leader with no integrity is like a captain with no map. He may command the ship, but he cannot guide it. He may shout from the deck, but he doesn't know where he's going. And what happens to those who follow him? They are led into storms, into reefs, into ruin. Not because they were weak, but because the one they trusted had no anchor. It is not the position of a leader that gives direction. It is his integrity. That is the unseen hand that keeps him steady when the winds blow, when the temptations rise, and when the world around him begins to shift. Without it, leadership is not just weak, it is dangerous. Integrity comes from a deep sense of accountability to truth. Not just any truth, not a shifting truth, not a man-made convenient version of truth, but absolute, unchanging truth. That truth, ladies and gentlemen, is not something we invent. It is something we submit to. A leader with integrity understands that he is not the highest authority. He answers to a higher law, God's law, eternal and holy. He knows that there will be a day when he gives account, not to a boardroom or a ballot box, but to the one who sees every thought and motive of the heart. Accountability is the anchor of integrity. Without it, we drift into pride, self-justification, and moral compromise. A leader must not only hold others accountable, he must first hold himself accountable, and that begins when he recognizes he is not his own master. He lives under the eye of God, and that holy fear keeps him grounded. The world says, do what works, but integrity says, do what's right. And it is truth that defines what is right, not popularity, not results, not applause. When a man is accountable to truth, he is no longer controlled by feelings or driven by flattery. He becomes consistent, dependable, and courageous. He is not swayed by every trend or tempted by every opportunity. He can be trusted because he has anchored his life to what is eternal. He doesn't ask, what will benefit me? He asks, what honors truth? That kind of thinking is rare today, but it is the foundation of every great leader in history. Real accountability is not external, it's internal. It's not just about being watched by others. It's about being watched by God. The leader of integrity knows this. Even if no one else sees, he sees. That alone is enough to guide every decision, every word, every action. Truth is not always convenient. It is not always comfortable, but it is always right. And when a leader builds his integrity on truth, he builds on rock, not on sand. The lasting legacy of a leader is their example, not their achievements. The world measures success by numbers, how many followers, how much money, how many buildings bear your name. But heaven measures by faithfulness. Long after the crowds forget your speeches, they will remember how you lived. Your actions will echo louder than your accomplishments. A man's example is the sermon he preaches every day, whether he ever stands behind a pulpit or not. You see, ladies and gentlemen, buildings crumble, awards collect dust, positions pass on to someone else. But the example of a righteous life leaves footprints that others will follow. Young eyes are watching. Broken hearts are watching. Those searching for truth are watching. And what they remember is not your resume. They remember your integrity, your humility, your compassion, your courage. These things are not written in books, but on hearts. A true leader doesn't point to himself. He points the way. He doesn't just talk about values. He walks them. His life becomes a compass for others to navigate their own storms. That kind of example doesn't just lead people, it shapes them, and it doesn't happen by accident. It comes from daily decisions, quiet sacrifices, and unwavering commitment to do what is right, even when it costs. You can build a career through talent, but you build a legacy through consistency. People will forget what you had, but they will never forget what you gave. The leader whose life reflects truth, love, and faithfulness may not always receive worldly recognition, but he leaves behind something greater than trophies. He leaves a trail of light for others to walk in. The power of a leader's example is that it lives on, it multiplies, it reaches places you may never go. One life, fully surrendered to truth and integrity, can ignite generations